Hi everybody, my name is Rob Scott from UC Today, and this talk is called UC, the New Way to Work. Today I'm joined by Joe Sarrasin, Director of Unified Communication Strategy at Crestron, who's going to share his advice on how to optimize your UC and collaboration strategy in 2020. Welcome, Joe. Thanks for joining me today. How about we start with an introduction? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Crestron?
Sure. Thanks for having me. So what I do at Crestron is I manage our general device strategy around how do we build meeting room technology for unified communications and how do we bring that into our portfolio with our different partners. I work very closely with Microsoft and Zoom to bring their platform to meeting rooms. Crestron has been in the smart meeting room intelligent building space now for pushing 50 years. And it is something that we consider ourselves to be a leader in. And this has been a kind of a remarkable situation for us lately to drive UC adoption.
It's an amazing time to be alive, really, isn't it? I mean, we're in the middle of the pandemic right now. We're both recording from home. Lots and lots happening. So we are seeing rapid adoption of UC, UCAS, and video collaboration solutions right now. So I was keen to kind of explore your perspective of the marketplace. I mean, 20% of phone systems in the cloud right now. The market doesn't necessarily report on how many companies are using UC, but we certainly know a lot are adopting it quite rapidly right now. So what's your view of the marketplace, Joe, at the moment?
I think, it was a lot of very healthy adoption for UC and UC as a service prior to the situation globally. But now that we've had this awful pandemic situation, it has forced a lot of organizations to abruptly implement a much more aggressive implementation strategy. So you see companies across the world that maybe were doing trials or were in the middle of kind of a phased rollout to bring some UC solutions to their employees and teams to do better work together remotely that have suddenly accelerated that and done something like 3 years of adoption in the span of 3 weeks. And so it's unprecedented, this kind of growth. And certainly it's unprecedented for an awful reason, but it's going to have a significant impact on people's work. And it is having an impact now. It's amazing to me seeing people do kind of the remote work and the collaborative work that I've been doing, for the last couple of years, just having to adopt it this month. The month of March has been huge for that. So it's a very interesting time. And I think when we come out of this, we're going to see that acceleration curve where maybe if your company was thinking about doing a cloud rollout, well, you probably did a cloud rollout this month, and now you have that infrastructure in place, you have those subscriptions in place. It's likely going to be your new infrastructure moving forward for how you do collaboration within your organization. So I wouldn't even hazard a guess at the number of companies that are using it right now, just to say that I think we probably went from something like maybe 15 to 20% of companies who had kind of a real UC rollout strategy now. And now we're probably looking at something probably 4 or 5 times higher than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen Microsoft, Cisco, Zoom, all reporting huge numbers, haven't we, in the past few weeks. I mean, the amount of work that must be happening in the background, within those organizations must be just absolutely crazy in terms of just being able to scale up and support the amount of new subscribers on their platform. So it's an incredible time for vendors in this space right now.
I work very closely with the product team at both companies, and this is an unprecedented situation for them. And honestly, I'm impressed with how well both organizations are handling this. Both organizations are finding ways to scale at speeds they never thought. Right. So certainly they all had plans to grow to this size, but none, at this pace. And they're finding efficiencies and finding ways to do it. And they're all doing it from home. So they're using their own tools. They're dogfooding their own technology. And this is something that is just is amazing to watch. So I'm just really proud to be able to work with those guys and see this kind of level of adoption and what they can support.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. What would have taken several months or years is literally taking days or weeks now, isn't it? It's just phenomenal, really, what's happening. So post-pandemic, Joe, is everyone going to race back to the daily commute, get back to the office and start high-fiving people in the corridor, or, what's going to happen? What's the future work look like?
So I think there's definitely going to be an influx of people back to the office. People are naturally going to want to get away from having been relegated to home offices or the kitchen counter or the basement, wherever they've been able to find some kind of solace to get their work done, and work as a team in groups. But I think the way that people will do their work and the nature of how they do things like share documents or set up meetings and have calls, or whether they feel that they can accomplish their job from home, all of those considerations and fears will have changed how they work from this experience. So we should expect to see kind of a 100% adoption of UC into their workflow, just by necessity, that they've started to implement those policies and strategies, and those are going to carry over even when people are back sitting at their desks in their office. It's going to be a significant change in how people get work done. And I would liken it to, when people started having laptops and were able to move around from desk to desk, or when people started using even email over printed memos within an old corporation. So it's just a big shift that needs to be accounted for. And I think whether you're in the office or working from home, or what's very likely going to be a very hybrid work model for a lot of knowledge workers, is something that needs to be considered.
Absolutely. You can't underplay the value of the cloud in a situation like this, can you, at the moment? And certainly with only kind of 20% or so in the cloud today, I suspect that's going to really kind of tip the other way. Would you tend to agree?
I would absolutely agree. And again, I think that 20% number, we should refer to that as yesterday's number almost, because
Yeah.
Who knows what percentage is in the cloud today at this moment. And we're having this meeting in the cloud. So many others are having meetings in the cloud that never had meetings before. As an example, my mother is an elementary school teacher, and she's been doing lessons and teaching via Zoom, which is just unbelievable to have transitioned young children over to doing remote learning. But it's what has to be done. But now that's something that these people will be equipped with and understand the benefits of and the use cases for. So it may not be their day to day, but it's going to be available. It's going to be in everybody's back pocket to know that this is a way that they can accomplish a lot of things. And that's certainly going to just have broad sweeping impacts on every industry.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. And, it's not just, home working, is it? The future of work is potentially remote working from anywhere work. Would you tend to agree that, that might just kind of also amplify the remote working kind of numbers as well?
I think it amplifies the remote working. I think it also amplifies kind of the nature of collaborative work, co-creating documents and presentations, co-editing things, having meetings where you do kind of actual, co-creation together. What may have been done previously on a whiteboard or on a big piece of paper is now being done in real time in documents in these cloud services. So not only is it facilitating kind of work from anywhere, but it's facilitating this kind of centralized idea of a singular digital place to get work done. And I think that is going to have a huge impact as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And adoption's always been a challenge. It's always been a bit of a slow burn, hasn't it? Bringing on these technologies and getting the users to kind of really utilize them and get full value from them. But it's almost kind of an overnight kind of sea change in terms of adoption.
It's unbelievable. And, it's one of those things where necessity will drive innovation. So people have to learn how to use these platforms. And the companies who make these platforms are taking the kind of feedback they're getting from their customers and implementing changes in real time now. So you're starting to see not only are people adapting to the technology, but the technology is adapting to the people. And it's going to make for a richer collaboration environment for everyone to use. And it's going to make for people feeling more friendly about adopting the technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And at some point in the future, I'm sure that some kind of AI is going to be able to suppress the sound of a dog barking in the background. So I apologize for that if you heard that. So working from home, the wonders of working from home. I'm also wondering about haircuts as well, because my hair's getting longer by the day and I can't get to a hairdresser. So I'm wondering maybe augmenting a hat on my head at some point.
Listen, coming from the world where haircuts have stopped really being a thing that I worry about. I can only express so much sympathy, but I understand that, how do we handle this kind of environment in remote work? And certainly, something that UC does not lend itself to as a barber. So I think that's another reason that people will be kind of happy to get back in the office to take advantage of those things that just can't really happen very well over video conferencing.
Indeed, but even in your personal life, it's really interesting to see, isn't it, how people are reacting at the moment, especially in this pandemic, and virtual house parties and virtual gaming and things like that. I had a quiz the other night using Zoom, for example, and with some friends, and it was great. And there's all sorts happening, but it's really shining a light on that the fact that we can do this.
It really is, and it's that kind of necessity for basic human interaction. People on my team at work, well, what we used to do, our stand up by the coffee machine in the morning, is now become, we sit with our cups of coffee, but we do a Teams meeting, and we all join on video, and it just gives us that ability to have that kind of non-specific interpersonal reaction that you need. You need to have it to stay functional, right? If you're locked in your house, and you're going to need to socialize somehow. So it really is bridging a gap that people need.
Great stuff. And so kind of my last question would be kind of looking forward, and in light of 2020's rocky start, really, what should organizations be considering this year when looking to optimize their workforce communications and collaboration strategies?
Honestly, I think people have made the jump on the platforms and the services now, but the smart organizations, the organizations that are really thinking forward, are making the investment now in their infrastructure and the physical infrastructure, making sure they have appropriate connectivity and bandwidth for when everybody comes back and 100% of your team are actively using a cloud service. Making updates to meeting rooms is something that we've seen a lot of organizations do, where they say, okay, we fully accept now that everyone's going to be using Teams or Zoom, and we need Teams and Zoom ready meeting rooms immediately. And so they're taking advantage of shut down buildings to install infrastructure, because there's nobody there. So you can have teams come in and do things like updates and upgrades and install these things safely, so that when people do return to work, the workplace is prepared for the way these people have been working. And I think that's a great concept and an idea, and a way to prepare yourself so that you're not caught off guard.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you are in the cloud, there's so many more opportunities, aren't there, for organizations to further differentiate themselves, innovate, and really make their staff more productive.
More productive at remote work. And even if you're talking about remote work from multiple offices and taking advantage of, one touch to join meeting room technologies, so that you can walk in and join a meeting in a co-working space. These things are all hugely advantageous to facilitating people working the way they want to. And so it's something that really needs to be considered.
Absolutely. Joe, it's been great speaking to you today. You've shared some fantastic insights. Thank you for your time, and our viewers watching. You can connect with Joe on LinkedIn, and you can connect with the wider team at Crestron at crestron.com. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much for having me.